For 30 years, Martin Price believed he was married to the love of his life. They raised a daughter, built a quiet life in Nebraska, and celebrated 3 decades of loyalty. But one cold October morning, everything changed. Hidden in a dusty attic box was a truth so dark, it shattered him in seconds. His wife wasn't who she said she was, and by sunset, someone was dead. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and comment where you're watching from. This one's going to stay with you for a while. Martin Price was never the kind of man who chased attention. He was quiet, hardworking, a retired math teacher from Lincoln, Nebraska. His life? Predictable, peaceful. He married young, a woman named Denise Parker. They met at a local church potluck in 1992. She was shy, wore oversized sweaters, and never liked crowds. But Martin liked that about her. She was gentle, private, kind. After just 6 months of dating, they got married in a courthouse wedding. No family, no photos. Just the two of them, holding hands, promising forever. A few years later, they adopted a baby girl, Maya. Martin loved that little girl like his own blood. He built her a treehouse, took her fishing every summer. To the outside world, they looked like a regular small-town family. No scandals, no drama. But behind the front door of 1412 Pine Hill Drive, something had always been slightly off. Denise never talked about her past. She had no baby photos, no relatives who visited, and whenever Martin asked about her childhood, she changed the subject. He never pushed. He thought some people were just private. Until one rainy afternoon, curiosity finally caught up with him. It started with the attic. Martin had gone up to look for an old camping lantern, but instead he found a locked metal box tucked behind insulation. Denise had never mentioned it. He didn't open it that day, but something about it bothered him. That night he asked casually, "Hey, what's that silver box in the attic?" Denise froze. "Just junk," she said quickly. "Old documents, nothing important." But her hands were shaking, and that was the first time Martin saw fear in her eyes. After that, small things began to surface. One afternoon, Maya brought home a family tree project from school. She wanted to trace her mom's side. Denise panicked. "Just tell your teacher we don't really do that sort of thing," she snapped. It was unlike her. She was never harsh with Maya. Martin started to think back. Denise never swam, not once in 30 years, never changed with the door open. She hated doctors, avoided hospitals. At first, these things felt random, harmless, just quirks. But together, they painted a strange picture. Martin started losing sleep. He tried to shake it off. Maybe she had trauma. Maybe she was just ashamed of her past. But the way she watched him now, like she was afraid he'd find something, it told him everything he needed to know. Denise was hiding something. Something big. The next morning, when Denise left to run errands, Martin went back into the attic. He brought down the box, locked, heavy. He cracked it open with a flathead screwdriver. Inside were 2 things: a thick manila envelope and a small black velvet pouch. First, the envelope. Inside were old IDs, some in the name Denise Parker, but others in the name David Parker. The photos: younger, shorter hair, no makeup, same eyes, same jawline, same person, but not the woman he thought he married. Martin sat on the edge of the bed, hands trembling, trying to make sense of it. Then he opened the pouch. Inside was a single testosterone vial, sealed, labeled from 1989. He didn't move for 20 minutes. His thoughts raced. Was this some kind of mistake? Was she trans? Did she lie? Or was she running from something worse? Suddenly, memories flooded in. Their wedding night, Denise saying she wasn't ready. How she insisted on keeping the lights off. Always. 30 years. No clue. And now, all of it unraveled in seconds. Martin didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat there, still, silent, until he heard the front door open. Hey, I'm back, Denise called out from the kitchen. Martin didn't answer. He was still sitting in their bedroom, box open, envelope on the floor. When she walked in and saw it, she stopped cold. Her face went pale. "You went through my things?" she said softly. Martin looked up. "Who are you?" Silence. "Tell me the truth," he said, his voice shaking. "Just once." Denise sat down across from him, folded her hands. "My name was David Parker, a long time ago, before I transitioned." Martin's jaw clenched. "You never told me." "I didn't think you'd love me if you knew." His eyes filled with tears. "So you lied, every single day for 30 years. "No," she whispered. "I loved you. I still do." Martin stood up, pacing. "You had a child with me. We raised a daughter. We adopted Maya together. You were the one who wanted a child more than anything." "Don't twist this," he shouted. Something in him cracked. This wasn't just about gender, it was about betrayal. Identity. His entire reality. Fake. For hours they talked. Argued. Martin asked questions. Denise answered. Honestly. She told him about the surgeries, the hormones, the fear. She had no family because they disowned her. She changed her name, moved to a new state, built a life from scratch, and through it all, she said, she never stopped loving him. But Martin, he couldn't hear it anymore. That night, he didn't sleep. He just stared at the ceiling. Heart racing, mind spinning, thinking about the one question that wouldn't let him go. Was any of it real? And if not, what else was he capable of? It was 6:42 a.m. The house was quiet. Martin stood at the kitchen sink, staring out at the backyard, coffee untouched. Denise came in slowly, wearing the same robe she had for years. "We need to talk," he said. She sat down at the table, her eyes already bracing for impact. "I can't live like this," he told her, "not knowing who you really are." Denise spoke gently. "You do know me, the person you loved, who raised Maya with you, who made this house a home. That was me, Martin, every day." "No," he snapped. "That was a lie in lipstick and soft sweaters." Denise's voice broke. "I'm not a lie. I was trying to protect you. Protect us." Martin slammed his hand on the table. "From what? The truth?" Denise flinched. "Do you know what it feels like?" he said, voice cracking. "To realize that your marriage, your entire life, was built on a secret?" "Yes," she whispered, "because I've lived with it every day, terrified you'd hate me if I told you." A pause. Martin looked at her, and for a second he saw the woman he once loved. But something inside him had already snapped. "I don't even know what to call you," he muttered. Denise stood, calm, sad. "You can still call me Denise, or you can walk away, but I won't be ashamed of who I am anymore." That moment, that defiance, it was the match on soaked gasoline. Martin grabbed the ceramic mug from the counter, and in a single flash of rage, he hurled it. It hit her above the eye. She stumbled, blood already pooling. "Martin," but he wasn't listening. Years of confusion, shame, anger. All of it exploded at once. What happened next wasn't planned, but it was permanent. Denise was still conscious. She crawled toward the hallway, one hand pressed to her bleeding head. "Please, don't," she whispered. But Martin had already left the room. He went to the garage, picked up the first thing he saw, a rusted crowbar. When he came back, she was trying to open the front door. "Martin, stop. We can get help. We can talk." But he wasn't there anymore. Not as a husband, not as a father, not as the man she built a life with. He was somewhere else, somewhere darker. And when that crowbar came down, it came down hard. Once, twice. By the third hit, she wasn't moving. Blood spread across the hardwood like spilled paint. Her hand twitched, then stopped. The silence in that room was deafening. Martin dropped the crowbar, just stood there, looking at her body. And for the first time, he didn't feel anger, just emptiness, the kind that sits in your bones, the kind that doesn't go away. The murder happened at 7:08 a.m. By 7:19, Martin called 911, his voice on the call. Calm. "I've killed my wife," he said. "She lied to me. I lost control." Dispatch tried to keep him on the line. He just repeated the same sentence. "She lied to me." When officers arrived, the front door was unlocked. Denise's body was still in the hallway. Martin was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded, covered in blood. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He just nodded when they read him his rights. The police report described the scene as contained but brutal. Blood splatter matched the crowbar. No signs of struggle beyond that first escape attempt. Upstairs, they found the box, the documents, the vial. Everything Denise had tried to hide now lay bare in an evidence bag. The neighbors, shocked. They were quiet, one said. The kind of couple that waved, kept to themselves. You never think something like this happens just across the street. Maya, their daughter, was away at college. Police had to call her. The detective's words were direct. "There's been an incident. Your mother is deceased. Your father is in custody." She didn't speak for a full minute. Then she asked the only question that mattered. Why? Martin Price was charged with second-degree murder. The trial began 5 months later. Courtroom 4C in Lancaster County was packed. Not just with press, but with strangers, curious onlookers, supporters, protesters. It wasn't just a murder trial. It was a cultural flashpoint. The defense painted Martin as a man betrayed, mentally and emotionally deceived for decades. They claimed temporary insanity, that the discovery of Denise's past triggered a psychological break. The prosecution didn't flinch. "This is not about gender. This is about choice," the DA said. Martin Price made a conscious decision to take a life, a brutal one. Then came the evidence, the broken crowbar, the blood-soaked floorboards, the 911 call played aloud, and finally, the box, IDs with the name David Parker, medical letters, a transition timeline. The jury watched in silence as Maya took the stand. She testified for both sides. "My mother loved my father," she said. "She was terrified of losing him. That's why she hid who she was." Then she turned toward Martin. "But you didn't just walk away. You didn't even try. You destroyed her." Martin cried quietly. For the first time in the trial. On the final day, the jury deliberated for just under 5 hours. They returned with a verdict. Guilty of second-degree murder. Martin Price was sentenced to 35 years in prison. No possibility of parole for the first 20. As he was escorted out of the courtroom, he looked back once. Not at the judge, not at the jury, but at Maya. She didn't look back. The news broke within hours. Nebraska husband kills wife after learning she was trans. The country erupted. On one side, people calling Martin a murderer, a coward, a bigot. On the other, people claiming he was deceived, pushed beyond reason. LGBTQ advocates held vigils for Denise. "Her past didn't kill her," one speaker said. "Fear did. Fear of truth, fear of identity. And a man who couldn't handle either." Meanwhile, right-wing commentators painted a different picture. "This is what happens when deception becomes law," one wrote. The trial became a case study in ethics, gender identity, and truth in relationships. Talk shows debated it. Podcasts dissected it. But what no one could agree on was simple. Was Denise wrong for hiding her past? Was Martin a victim of betrayal, or a cold-blooded killer? Maya refused to speak to reporters. She moved to Seattle, changed her last name. "I lost both parents," she said in a single written statement. "The one who died, and the one who did it." To this day, people still argue about the case. Some call it murder, others call it madness. But behind every headline there was still a daughter, still a home filled with silence, and still a truth that divided a nation. Martin Price will die in prison. He spends most days in silence. No visitors, no phone calls, just him. And the memory of a woman he loved. And killed. And Denise? She'll never get to explain. Never get to defend herself. Was it betrayal? Or survival? Was hiding her past a form of deception? Or was it self-preservation in a world that wasn't safe for people like her? And Martin, did he snap because of the lie? Or because of what that truth forced him to question about himself? Marriage is built on trust. But what happens when that trust is tied to identity? To secrets? To shame? One truth. One lie. One moment of rage. And a love story turned into a cautionary tale. This was the story of Martin and Denise Price. A 30-year marriage. That ended in blood. If this story left you speechless, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments. Was it murder? Or was it betrayal? And as always, be careful who you trust. Because some secrets are built to kill.